Hey, Wayne Fox here. I've got another video for you. And this one I'm going to break into two parts. If this is your first time on my channel, I encourage you to consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell because part two will be actually more useful to most of the viewers than part one. I'm going to talk about keywords today. And part one, I'm going to basically try to make sure you understand the properties that keywords have in Lightroom and how you can utilize some of those properties to better organize your files. Now, I don't know about you, but lately I took a look at my keyword list and realized how pretty manageable it is. I've got the same keyword in there 4 or 5 times, and it's, if you take a look at the keyword list here in my library, you can see that it just goes on and on and on and on forever. And so to actually find anything, it's pretty useless to search. I mean, it's to find anything, all I can do is search, but I can't actually use the list for anything. And I realized that if I organized a little better, I might be able to use the list a little bit more effectively, and at least it won't clutter up my keyword list. So let's talk about, first of all, the 3 types of keywords that I think you might want to create. And maybe some of these are ones you haven't considered before. And then we'll also talk about the properties of keywords that you can utilize that will allow you to organize them and make them more effective. Now, first of all, we understand that keywords are all about searching, and this is metadata that's attached to your file. So whenever you put that file out there anywhere, Google or any other search engine, when they crawl the web, they'll find those meta tags. If you put them on any sharing sites like 500px or whatever that one's called, or some similar ones like that, those keywords are critical. I know I have a website, and on that website, the keywords are there. So if you search my website using keywords, you're able to find files. So if we're going to do keywords so they search, then we've got to consider, are there any other uses for keywords? And in my mind, you can use a keyword for 3 different things. One of them is if you have file specific information. In other words, it's something you want to store for just one file, and you want it on there because it's just the best place to put it, right? And so that's a possible use for a keyword. Now, the problem is you might have hundreds of those and it'll really clutter things up. Well, we'll solve that here in a few minutes. I'll show you how you can use that and still make it work. Another one is not really file specific, but it's specific to you. In other words, you really don't need it out there for Google to find because it's meaningless for everybody else, but it might be important information for you. So it might be a keyword that you use quite often, but it's nothing that you care about anybody finding in a search once you put it out on the internet. And of course, the final one is the normal keyword, and that's where you want people that they type in it's like typing in a hashtag. You want them to find that location or that shot and at least consider it. And hopefully when Google shows its images, or DuckDuckGo or any of these others, you get a hit pretty high up. Now, obviously, if it's a pretty famous location, odds of that are pretty slim. Stock photographers obviously become keyword experts, because really to be successful in stock photography, that's really one of the keys. So let's dive in and take a look, first of all, at what the 3 types of keywords are that you might want to use and what you might want to do, and then what we can use as far as properties to organize them. What I've done is I've created a file from some of my images and I've stripped it of all keywords. So we're just going to try to start from scratch. If you could start from scratch, what would you want to end up like? Or how could you end up with an organized keyword list? And once we understand that, we can maybe go tackle our really messed up keyword list and organize it. So that'll be part 2 of the video. Anyway, let's go take a look at that stuff. Okay, so as I mentioned, I created a Lightroom library with some of my pictures. And as you can see here, I have no keywords in this library. So let's open our keywording panel here. You'll notice there are 3 sections to the keywording panel. We're only going to worry about this top one in this video. Notice I have 3 options here now. I can either enter my keywords, which means this box here becomes enterable. If I select keywords and containing keywords, that's what'll show in the box, and this box is no longer enterable. I can still add keywords down here though. And last, of course, is our will export. So this box will show every keyword we're going to export, which is going to be substantially more keywords than we're going to see when we enter them, as you'll find out in a minute. So let's pick 2 pictures. I'm going to pick this one here to start with. It's one of my favorite shots. This is a really cool black sand beach, and this beach is called Holokalani. So I'm just going to click the enter box here, and I'm going to paste that in. And I'm going to go ahead and add the word beach because that's kind of the formal name for it. And you'll notice that adds it up here. Let's open our keyword list. And as you can see, every time I add one, it will add one into the list, and there'll be a checkbox by it. Now I can take it out of this particular picture just by turning it off in the checkbox. And of course, that means that any keyword in my list, if I want to add it to a picture or a group of pictures, I just have to select those and then turn the checkbox on. Now I can also enter multiple keywords here. So this is a We might want to put the location. So this is in Hana. And if I put a comma, that lets me start a new keyword. And this is in Maui. And another comma, and we're going to say it's in Hawaii. And then it's in the United States. And if once I hit return, you'll see all 4 of those are populated and they're all added down below. Now I can also, if I have the inner keywords section up here, I can actually click and just type keywords here. So let's type in beach, ocean. And you notice when I do that, as soon as I comment, it tries to suggest something to me. And one of the things that I don't like about this is it always suggests a word before you've even typed a letter. So it's always going to have the word at the top of your list. It's actually quite annoying. They really should wait till you've typed at least 2 letters in before they start to try to suggest it. Anyway, it's really easy to get this keyword in the wrong place because if you're not watching, you'll suddenly add it. If I hit return right now, you see it'll add that keyword, and I really don't want it because often that's usually not a keyword that relates to the image we're doing. So anyway, let's add waves, sand. We could go on and on. And once we get that, hit return, and those keywords are in. And of course, if they're a new keyword that have never been used before, they'll go out in the bottom. All right, so let's go ahead and select another image. Let's go over to this one. And let's again enter keywords, and we're going to just do them up here in the box. So this, of course, is Mesa Arch. And that's in Moab, Utah. So Moab. And I'm going to put Eastern Utah to make sure that in the keyword search, people don't confuse. Moab is not in southern Utah. Most people think it is, and it's not even, it's a 6 or 7 hour drive to get from Moab to St. George and to Zions and places like that. Well, 5 or 6 at least. Anyway, so then we'll put Utah, and then of course we'll put, and this time we're going to put US, All right, so that was pretty good. Now let's add a few more. We'll go in this box. We'll put in Red Rocks. We could put in snow if we wanted, although that really doesn't apply. A good one might be Southwest, because Southwest is kind of a region that sometimes people search for. All I'm really trying to do is think of words that somebody might put in a search box that would let this picture get a hit. I mean, I might put sun glow, but we've got enough examples here. Now, as you can see, I've only entered keywords for 2 photographs, and suddenly my list is already getting to the point that in a minute it'll have to start scrolling. What about some keywords that apply to the images themselves? Well, let's take the first example. This particular image is a limited edition series, so I can only make so many. And so what I do is I create a keyword that contains the last edition number I sold. So when I print the print again, it's really easy for me to see what the next number is. In this case, this is number 22 is how many I've sold. And so I'll just put that keyword in there. Now that might be shared by other ones, but it's a keyword that I don't care. I'll just type it in, and if it happens to share, it will. But basically, this is a keyword for an individual photograph. Now, what about other ones? Another keyword I use is AR for aspect ratio. This one I think is a 0.7. I won't bother figuring it out, but I believe it's around a 0.7. And the reason I do that is I do not crop into specific aspect ratios. My images are wildly variable. And so if somebody wants to buy a 60-inch print, I can just look up this keyword and do the math and tell them how wide it will be. So I keep that in there. And another one I keep in there is the maximum size I can print. I have images going back to 11 megapixel cameras. I certainly can't make a 90-inch print from most of those images. Well, for many of those, I know people claim you can, but not for the quality I'm after. So I basically determine the largest print I can make from each image based on what I feel I'm comfortable with. And I'll put MS. In this case, I can make up to a 74-inch print because this is from a pretty high resolution medium format file. So now we've created 3 types of keywords. And as you can see, with just 2 images, I've got this almost unmanageable list going. Imagine if I put in keywords for 30 images from 30 different locations, I would have what I showed you earlier in the video, and that's this huge long list. So what can we do to consolidate that? One thing we can do is create a hierarchy in our keywords. And to do that, we can just start dragging keywords into keywords. So for example, Mesa Arch, we're going to drag that into Moab and drop it. And then we're going to drag Moab into eastern Utah and drop it. And we're going to drag eastern Utah into Utah and drop it. And we'll drag Utah into the United States and drop it. Okay. Now you'll notice that this has US. And so now if I go here, you'll see that I will export both United States and U.S. Now I really don't want to do that, so we'll figure that out in just a minute. So let's do the same thing with our other picture. Right here, we're going to go to the beach, and we're going to go and drop it into Hana, drop Hana into Maui, drop Maui into Hawaii, and drop Hawaii into United States. Now, you'll notice up here, I still have all these keywords, and these are keywords that I've entered. Well, I don't need all these keywords to be in my inner box because they're nested, I can simply put the lowest level keyword. And to do that, it's real simple. I just go to the lowest one here, and on this particular picture, I just turn off the check boxes. That leaves a little line. Now you'll notice those are no longer in my keyword list up at the top, but if I go to will export, they will be exported. So let's do the same thing with the other picture. Let's go here. And again, we can turn off Moab, Eastern Utah, Utah, and United States. Now in this case, because we're in the United States, we can go ahead and turn this US off. And now you'll see it's 0. Now this is still in United States, so it's still going to get that tag. We don't need this one anymore because we're going to delete it. So that brings up an interesting question. So what about if we want to have US and United States? Well, another property that we can utilize is if we go to edit the keyword tag, you can see that we can add a synonym. So here we will add u.s as a synonym. So when we export, we'll get both of those words exported, but we don't have to have them in our list. You'll see that the keywords I have in the list, I don't have any of those. Well, maybe we can use that in some other ways too. For example, Southwest. Southwest is a region of the country that covers several states. And rather than have it its own keyword, I simply will just make it a synonym of any region that falls in that category. So in this case, for example, Eastern Utah, I'm gonna make that a keyword. I'm gonna make that a synonym. Now, in this case, so if, for example, Death Valley, I would make that a synonym. Arizona, I would make the whole state of Arizona, because pretty much everything in Arizona that I shoot anyway is considered Southwest. Maybe I have to be more specific, so I could make Canyon de Chelly Southwest, Grand Canyon Southwest, Page, Arizona Southwest. But anyway, that means I can eliminate Southwest from the list, so I can turn it off here, and then I can delete it. So what I'm really trying to do is clean this up so there's as few keywords in my list as I really need. So there's a lot of uses for synonyms. And I did forget one down here. We have to go down here. We need to add a keyword. And I forgot to put Canyonlands National Park. And I'm going to go ahead and create a keyword of just Canyonlands. And then another way that people put national parks in is n.p. Now, synonyms for national parks can be really important. An example is Zion National Park in Utah, because most people, when they search that, they put in Zions, as it's almost like it's a plural, which of course it can't be. Anyway, whether these are necessary or not, I don't know, but I know you can't have too many keywords. All right, now let's go ahead and drop Canyonlands into Moab and drop Mesa Arch into Canyonlands. And now you can see that I've only got Mesa Arch up here. So the cool thing is, if I have another picture, and I believe I've got one, let's just go to grid view here, and I've got one right here. So if I go to this image and I just type in Mesa Arch, first of all, see, I type in 2 letters is there. I hit return, and that's now entered, but notice what happens when I export. All of that's already there by just typing in the one keyword. So that's really the power of recreating a hierarchical order to your images. Well, what's cool is we can take it to another level. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some keywords that we don't want to export that are simply for organization. So I'm going to add a keyword, and I'm going to put a dot in front of it, and I'm going to call it places. And I'm going to type, do not include this keyword when you export, but include everything else. And now I'm going to drag United States into that, and that's a place. So you might have Europe, you might, whatever. The nice part is now everything that's related to a place can be collapsed into one. So let's do that a couple more times. Let's add another keyword called things. And we're going to put a dot in front of it, because the dot will make sure it always stays at the top. And we're going to turn include and export off, and we're going to create it. What's a thing? Well, anything that's not a place is a thing to me. So all of these are things, and we're going to drop them into there. And then we're going to create two more. One is info. Whoops, that's the search, sorry. One is info. And again, we're not going to export it, and we're not going to export anything below it. And info is basically things that are shared in my library, but I don't want to export those to the web. So for example, these two might be common among several photographs. And then I'm going to add one more keyword, and I'm going to call it individual. And this is one I will nest, and I will never bother opening it because none of it applies. I won't be trying to find a keyword by it, because I'm interested in seeing the keyword once I find the picture, and in this case, my LE. So the individual one is one I'll probably never pop open ever. I might never pop this one open because I really don't care about them. I just want to be able to organize this, because I could end up with 150 aspect ratios or sizes, right? In this case, I could literally have hundreds of individual things that are designed for each picture, and I'm just going to go to the picture to find those. So now we've taken our keyword list and we reduced it down to just 4 little clicks here. And all we've got to do is open up any one of these, and we can drill down. And let's say we're looking for a picture in Hana. We can click the arrow over here and we'll immediately search for that. The key to this is make sure that the only check mark is the bottom level, because you don't need to actually put any of these other words in. Well, that does it for the video. Hopefully that makes it a little clearer about how I'm planning on using these keywords to organize mine. And like I said, in the next video, which I'll have out in about 2 weeks, I'll actually tackle that huge keyword list that I showed you earlier, and I'll try to organize it using these same concepts. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but once you get done, it's really nice because your keyword list is never cluttered up, and you can just drill down to whatever you want, and it makes it a lot simpler to use. Now, we don't use the keyword list to put keywords in all the time, but actually it makes it quite possible that you could do that. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. See ya.